The underdog boxer who saved the world, when fists triumph over magic. Like, share and subscribe. Episode 41. He is waiting for death and rebirth. Ji Qing looked lovingly at Yi An embracing the world, and recalled the night a few days ago. Yi An fell asleep on the spot due to overexertion after delivering a punch that had been stored for 3 minutes. She didn't dare to sleep, she was bored, so she looked around in the wooden house that contained all of Yi An's past. There is nothing special in the wooden house. Everything is clean and warm, as if the family is still here. Then she went to the ancient tree in the sky to bask in the moon, which was also very comfortable. But at this moment, she suddenly noticed a secret door on the ground. After she opened it gently, she stepped into the door expectantly. There is nothing special in the room. It's all in black and white. Densely packed information piled up into mountains. That is the knowledge that Yi An has learned over the years. He deeply understood that the gap between himself and Gao Tianyu's genius was not only in evolutionary fluid, but also in education. So he must know what the teachers above are teaching every day. I don't have anyone to teach me, but fortunately I have a lot of time, so I can learn on the spot. This means that the reserve of martial arts knowledge in Yi An's brain is huge enough to become a teacher for contemporary geniuses. The basement of more than 300 square meters is full of books. But the key focal point is the blackboard in the center. It was densely written with all the plans Yi An had made for himself. At the age of 18, every step after leaving Tianshui City is very detailed and rigorous. Ji Qing watched these pieces of information closely. Soon, her eyes became blank. Because she suddenly realized something. Yi An knows better than anyone else how far behind he is from the most powerful geniuses of our time. Therefore, every plan he made for himself was almost fatal. The first thing is to exercise to your limit. He has a dream, and he can practice in the dream until the extreme state becomes an instinctive ability. But he has not been able to do it so far. Yi An's words are full of helplessness. This innate ability of the human race is too difficult to master and still requires external pressure to open it. But after opening it, it can be used stably. This is just the first step. The second step is what Yi An is doing right now. He wants to make up for the gap in physical strength between himself and those geniuses. In the first realm, the second realm, and the third realm, the evolutionary fluid he used was only extraordinary, but others used infinite. Until now, there has been a clear difference. He must make up for this shortcoming. Yi An checked more than a dozen methods on the internet, but none of them worked. Later, I went to several black markets to buy information on how to make up for the defects of the evolutionary fluid. But he couldn't even buy it. The black market boss had a conscience and didn't want to defraud Yi An of the money. If a state is past, it is past. Unless everything is broken and rebuilt, it cannot be made up for. But Yi An didn't give up. He has been looking for ways to make up for the shortcomings of the evolutionary fluid for so many years. He is like an applicant that no one wants. All the interviewers tell him that we cannot fulfill your conditions. No one can fulfill the conditions you set. Once the state is over, it is over. No amount of money can make up for it, unless a miracle occurs. A person will most likely give up on himself after experiencing 10 failures. If you can experience 100 failures, your psychological quality will be stronger than 99% of people in the world. But Yi An found a total of 398 information points to ask for methods. Rejected 391 times. 7 times the other party provided some ancient folk remedies. 4 copies are obvious at first glance. The other 2 were almost like deceptions. They were probably sent to the temple in the high heaven realm to sincerely pray for the attention of a certain heroic spirit in the Hall of Heroes. It's like nonsense. Only one method is serious. It's written very clearly above. On Hellmars, reborn from the ashes. Enter the ultimate state, let the hellfire destroy your own realm, and then take the evolutionary fluid of the required realm, and then wait. As long as the willpower is strong enough, there is a certain chance of success. Because hellfire is also a bath of fire. The descendant of Suzaku, one of the 4 divine beasts, also has similar characteristics to Suzaku. If those who refer to this plan can get Suzaku's approval, they can also try it with Suzaku. But personally, I still recommend using Hellfire because there are successful cases. This case is the king of 4 generations. More details will follow. The writer of this plan is very serious. But whether these contents are true or false still needs to be verified. Later, Yan spent many battles and asked the top military officials about the accuracy of this matter. Gao Tianyu replied, "This is true." During those 2 years, Yan was very excited and hesitant. Because once you fail, you will die. Finally, he wrote on the blackboard, "I want to spend my old age with my loved ones, and I also want to stand out from the crowd. If you want the best of both worlds, you have to pay the price. Although there is a high chance that I will become a useless person. But I, Yan, don't want to lose." The final strokes are very heavy. Yan writes very hard. Ji Qing could imagine how long he hesitated and struggled to make this decision. So at this moment, she raised her little face. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, Yan's entire realm began to collapse. At the same time, he quickly consumed 12 bottles of evolutionary fluid. One profession has 4 realms and 4 bottles. 3 professions, 12 bottles. After swallowing it wholeheartedly, Yan finally raised his head and forgot to glance at the sky, smiling at his fate. Bring it on. Give it a try. He sat cross-legged, slumped down, with a painful expression on his face. He is waiting to die. Also waiting for rebirth. This moment. The expression management of Lu Shuyuan and Jing Yan was completely out of control. Yan originally wanted to rise from the ashes here. I stayed in Tianshui City for 6 years. The first thing you do when you are born is to use the legendary method to uplift your realm alive. Success, rebirth. Fail, die, or be useless. He didn't hesitate. How high and ruthless a person must be to himself in order to make such a decision. Who says he is not a genius? The two of them looked extremely nervous. They were praying in their hearts at this moment that the legend must be true. Lu Shuyuan even clasped his hands together and leaned on his forehead, mobilizing his talents to build a relationship for Yan. Fifth gear is in flames. There was a trace of confusion in Hellfire True God's eyes. At this moment, he seemed to have returned to the past. He is standing here too. In front of him was a child named Zhang Bufan. He has never beaten his peers once since he was a child, and he always shouts that he will win again next time. But you will lose next time. So he came here. At that time, there was no concept of infinite evolution fluid. There was only a legend that after being reborn from the ashes with the power of Suzaku, he would become stronger. But Suzaku was seriously injured that year, so the other party found him. At that time, I asked him, "Are you sure? I am not very similar to my mother." Zhang Bufan answered him firmly, "I don't want to lose again." Episode 42. How could I harm them? Just that moment. Yan's smile when he looked up at the sky was similar to that of Zhang Bufan back then. But Yan seems to be even crazier. Zhang Bufan felt like he was working hard to win. Yan's smile was more like saying, "Come on, who is afraid of whom?" The true god of Hellfire murmured, "Who is he facing?" Ji Qing on the side responded softly, "Destiny. I wasted 6 years accompanying my loved ones in their old age. I am destined to be unable to catch up with the genius of Gaotian realm, and will only be lost among everyone in the future. If you choose boxing cultivation, you are destined to be weak and will not be able to achieve anything on the battlefield." These are the words he grew up hearing. Everyone is telling him what to choose. Otherwise you are destined to be abandoned by fate. He refuses to accept it. Suddenly, the tone of Hellfire True God's voice rose suddenly and he said, "It's over." Ah. Ji Qing was startled. The true god of Hellfire said quickly, "The reason why Zhang Bufan was able to do it back then was because his talent was also fire, which has the same origin as mine and can blend with each other." "No, Yan. I remember I asked Zhang Bufan to tell the human race that he is the only one who can walk this path, and no one else can follow it. Why does Yan still do this?" Ji Qing said doubtfully, "Because the high-level military officials of Gaotian territory sent him a reply saying that this plan is feasible." "Who said that?" Hellfire God became anxious. "Ah." Ji Qing suddenly lost all color on her face and murmured, "What do you mean? Yan is destined to fail?" The true god of Hellfire cursed, "He can't absorb my flames, how could he succeed?" "Who wrote the reply to Yan?" "It's over, I have to find a way." The Hellfire God took a deep breath. The spiritual palace is shattered, and it is difficult for the gods to save it. Even him. Did I not make it clear to Zhang Bufan back then? The god of Hellfire frowned. He was careless and had a bad memory. He immediately felt that he had tricked Yan. What the hell? The Hellfire True God cursed loudly and said, Ji Qing, wait for me here. I'll shake people. Don't worry, I'm looking for my mother. She should be able to save Yan when she comes. Thinking of this, the Hellfire True God took a step forward and quickly found his mother in the Suzaku territory. In the boundless green phoenix forest, a cold and high-pitched voice came. If you don't go to the Three Treasures Hall for any reason, you, a rebellious son, will only come to me as your mother when something happens to you. I don't want to worry about you. The Hellfire True God quickly said, Mom, something happened. He quickly told him about Yan. Suzaka said leisurely, from what you said, that boy is a proud and arrogant person. I can indeed save him. But one thing is that even if I save him, his realm will not be higher, it will only be lower than it is now. Do you think he accepts this situation? The true god of Hellfire said quickly, ignore this for now, saving people is more important. Well, since you begged me so humbly, I will help you as a mother. At the same time. High Heaven Domain. Yi Mansion. Yi Xiaoshu was sitting in a luxurious bedroom. Next to him, a record player was spinning, and melodious and sultry singing echoed in the room. In front of him, his father Yi Wuzi was swaying to the song, his face full of intoxication. Yi Xiaoshu lowered his head and asked, Father, what makes you so happy? Shu. Suddenly, Yi Wuzi signaled Yi Xiaoshu to be quiet, then picked up the star stand, leaned against the window and overlooked the ants under the skyscraper, and dialed a phone number. Is something wrong? Ji Shi's cold voice came from the other end of the phone. Yi Wuzi laughed and said, How is your daughter doing? At this moment, Ji Shi was still in the ancestral hall, with blazing eyes and an ugly face. Just now, the speed of the ice beads breaking suddenly stopped, and the life cards suddenly cracked a lot. Hearing Yi Wuzi's voice, he understood immediately. What did you do? Me? Yi Wuzi pretended to be confused and said, Godfather. How could I possibly hurt your daughter? According to seniority, Ji Qing is my sister and relative. You think so? Yi Wuzi stood by the window and smiled. The sunshine was bright, but Yi Xiaoshu felt a chill down his spine. My father is the most ruthless snake in the world. For rights. Dare to kill anyone and do anything. And he always does bad things flawlessly. Others know that he did it, but they can't find him. Yi Xiaoshu has lived in this sense of oppression since he was a child. He is very afraid of his father, fearing that one day he will no longer have the value of existence, and he will even kill himself. Etc. Something happened to Ji Qing? She should be with Yan. Does that mean? At this time, Yi Wuzi sighed and said, the Generalissimo's temper is getting worse and worse. He died without even saying a word. But that's right. Yan is so useless. My daughter's spiritual support is gone. It's hard to be in a good mood. What? Yi Xiaoshu was startled. You said Yan is dead? Yi Wuzi touched his forehead and sighed, yes, I don't know who gave him the wrong information. He foolishly believed it and ruined himself. A genius has died. It's so sad. Yi Wuzi lowered his head and looked sad. But Yi Xiaoshu saw a sinister and cunning smile. He didn't know exactly what happened. But he was sure. Something happened to Yan. The father is the mastermind. Yi Xiaoshu smiled forcefully and said, it's a pity. Finally, he lowered his head, his eyes dim. I have told Yan a long time ago. Don't rebel against your father. Don't resist your destiny. You can't win. At the same time, the Generalissimo quickly contacted Nian Whale. Yan, did something happen to you? Whale Nian quickly told the Generalissimo the situation at this time. Yan believed in the legend of 4 generations of human kings and wanted to be reborn on Mars in prison. After the Generalissimo heard this, his expression suddenly changed and he said, you didn't stop him. No. Jing Nian said quickly, the Hellfire God has spoken out. He said that it will be fine as long as he is there. What the hell? The Grand Marshal frowned, lowered his head and cursed secretly. I'll go see for myself. His figure was like a meteor passing through the sky, passing through dozens of portals in just a few seconds, and descending over Hell Mars. At a glance, he saw Ji Qing standing on the 5th stall, and Yan sitting on the 4th stall waiting for rebirth. Ji Shi took one step forward and came to Ji Qing's side. He frowned and said, Qinger, where is the true god of hellfire? At this moment, there was almost no color on Qinger's face. She mumbled absent-mindedly, he said that Yan is finished. He went to Lord Suzaku for help. Hear this. Ji Shi quickly patted Ji Qing's back and said, if Master Suzaku was here, Yan would never die. Ji Qing shook her head blankly and said, but Yan will not be reborn. He will still be weaker than others, even weaker than himself now. He'll be desperate. Only she knows how much Yan has paid for this step. After 397 failures, her only hope was wiped out. She knew what it felt like. Episode 43. Don't tell me for sure. Ji Shi's eyes scanned all directions. He saw his pale daughter, saw Yan who was not sure whether he was alive or dead, and also sensed Lord Suzaku's aura approaching here. Yi Wutz's mocking voice echoed in his mind. Ji Shi was not furious, but his face gradually darkened, expressionless, and he didn't know what he was thinking. Soon, Lord Suzaku appeared. She did not appear as the true god. She was wearing a fiery red robe and black hair shawl. She stood in midair and stared at Yan. Sir, can you save me? Ji Shi asked in a deep voice. After a few seconds of silence, Suzaku nodded and said, okay. Then do it. Ji Shi said calmly. The next second, Suzaku's figure suddenly appeared next to Yan. She was very tall, looking down at Yan, who had his head hanging down and his face full of pain, and raised his palm. The Suzaku holy fire beats, and the blazing golden flame exudes an awe-inspiring aura. Then, her palm fell towards Yan's head. Suddenly. No. A hoarse and extremely weak voice sounded. Suzaku paused his palms, frowned, and said, you will definitely fail. Yan struggled to say one word after another, no, you have to, tell me, you must. This time, Ji Shi's expression changed. The god of hellfire is also anxious. Wei Nian and Lu Shuyuan also arrived in a hurry. Yan. Do you still remember me? Lu Shuyuan said quickly, you have been plotted by a villain. Your rebirth plan this time will not succeed. The legend of the 4 generations of kings is true, but it has limitations. He is of the fire attribute and can resonate with hellfire, but you are not a fire attribute talent. You can't copy the feats of 4 generations of human kings. Several big shots who could shock the world by stomping their feet gathered around Yan and quickly explained to him. Ji Qing also came over. She squatted in front of Yan, gently touched his hand, closed her eyes tightly, and looked sad. It's all my fault. I told Lord Hellfire not to save you. I thought you could do it, but I didn't expect. Suddenly, he noticed that Yan, who had his head lowered, raised his eyelids with difficulty. One pupil, the eyeball was broken and filled with blood. He stared straight at Ji Qing and said, Okay. Destiny can change. Believe me. Yan almost used up all his strength to spit out the last word. This moment. The Hellfire god standing behind the crowd was moved. Ji Qing's words echoed in his mind. The strength you see in me comes from him. He suddenly said loudly, don't help him. If he is what he says he is, he can change his destiny and survive. I'll give him half of my hellfire. This sentence made Suzaku frown, thinking that you, the traitor, asked me to come here, and now you won't let me save you. It's really confusing. Suddenly, even Ji Shi said, everyone, step back. Leave everything to Yan himself. At this moment, Ji Shi's attitude towards Yan has changed. He could indeed give Yan anything before. But that only shows that in his heart, Yan is just a tool to save his daughter. Now. Ji Shi regards Yan as a man. A real man will be responsible for what he says. If he could really do this impossible thing, then what he said to Yi Wutze would no longer be a joke. Yi Anhui is the successor to the position of Generalissimo. Everyone gathered around Yan. His condition is declining rapidly. The internal organs are drying up. The spiritual mansion, the physical body, and the brain are collapsing. The breath of life is also quickly dissipating. Time passed by minute by minute. Lu Shuyuan raised his head and closed his eyes, counting down in his heart. He was sure that Yan only had 10 seconds left to live. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Remember the moment when the countdown ends. Lu Shuyuan opened his eyes, lowered his head and lamented. I saw Yan falling straight forward. There is no trace of life left in the body. There are no miracles. Ji Qing sat on her knees in a daze and said softly, Yan, Yan. Yan. Her voice suddenly became heavier. Yan. No respond. She screamed, Yan. At this moment, she felt like she had lost something, and her originally warm, beating heart was cooling down rapidly. It seemed like I had a dream. I dreamed of the future in which I would survive. Now I wake up from the dream. It's all over. Tears poured out of her cheeks crazily and fell on Yan's cheeks. A few seconds later, her last tear turned into ice and rolled down Yan's cheek to his palm. Jishur on the side was still staring attentively. Whale Nian shook his head and thought, how could this happen? The Hellfire True God turned his head, with mixed emotions. However, Zhu Ke patted Ji Qing's head gently and said, I'm not dead yet. He still has a little bit of activity in his brain. Ji Qing lowered her head and said expressionlessly. On the air base. A middle-aged man possessed by Yi Wuzi looked down at this scene, raised his head and sneered, saying to himself, Dream? Father, is this your talent? Nothing. At this moment, the entire Hell Mars seemed to have become silent, and you could hear a needle drop. Yi Wuzi was ready to leave this man's body. Suddenly, a gust of breeze blew across his cheek. It feels good, but very uncomfortable for him. There's still wind in this damn place. Yi Wuzi frowned. Suddenly, the wind became louder. Yi Wuzi thought to himself, who else is coming? Damn you little brat, there are so many things. He looked up at the starry sky. Was there no scent of other strong men? Etc. The next second, Yi Wuzi lowered his head sharply. His eyes instantly locked onto Yi and lying on the ground. I saw the corners of his mouth suddenly raised. How could the corners of a dead man's mouth move on their own? At this time, the noise intensified. The strong wind is carrying the majestic hellfire, and a heat storm is about to hit. Yi Wuzi's eyes turned in the direction of the wind. Eye of the storm. It's Yan. What happened? Yi Wuzi frowned. On the earth, Lu Shuyuan is full of sadness. The year of the whale that bowed its head and sighed. The true god of hellfire with his back to Yi An's corpse. At this moment, they all turned around, raised their heads, and stared at Yan. Jishur also took a long breath and looked up at the sky. I saw that the world had been covered by the hellfire storm. Hellfire True God's eyes narrowed. This is the second time he has seen such a scene. The first time was on the day when the fourth generation Wang Zhang Bufan was reborn. This time, is Yan going to live? Suddenly, his eyes peered through Yi An's body and into the inside of his brain. A talent rune that should have dispersed is now running at high speed, shining with brilliant colorful light, so beautiful. The name of this rune is called Dream. The fourth generation king has a unique talent. Unfortunately, I, Yan, have it too. Episode 44. You will never be able to compete with your father in your life. With the dream runes running at high speed. The hellfire that Yan could not absorb originally poured into his body crazily at this moment. Rebirth has begun. Lu Shuyuan's pupils suddenly shrank and he exclaimed, what kind of logic is this? Whale Nian also looked in disbelief and said, isn't he unable to resonate with flames? Jishur on the side was in a great mood. He smiled and said, dreams can achieve anything. No logic or reason is needed. But it also requires something. Tianwen said it is some kind of will. What he said was very abstract and I couldn't understand it deeply. But I just need to understand one thing. Dreams can accomplish anything. Believe in dreams, this talent is the miracle itself. The reason why the 7 generations of kings ignored all opinions and listened to Tianwen's advice was because Tianwen accomplished too many impossible things in his life journey. This talent is usually not obvious. But once we reach a desperate situation, Tianwen can always rely on dreams to turn things around. But I remember that Tianwen only did such a thing when he was 23 years old. Yian is only 18, and he has another talent. It seems like he doesn't need to be the next Yi Tianwen. Then, he looked at Ji Qing and said gently, Qinger, why don't you believe Yian? At this moment, the color appeared on Ji Qing's face again, and her little face was full of grievances. Why don't I believe Yian? Yes, Yian asked me to believe him, why don't I believe it? Because he no longer has the breath of life. In medical terms, he is already a corpse, but the internal tissues of his body are still active, but they will slowly become necrotic. Can this be reversed? Who knows? She thought she already trusted Yian, so she stopped the Hellfire God. I don't know what to say. She is so wronged. Suddenly, Suzaku looked up with a smile and said, Nizi, you have been practicing for so many years, why are you still so weak? The Hellfire True God's expression froze. Suzaku suddenly raised his hand and said, I like this boy very much. Your flame is not worthy of him. Change mine. After saying that, red gold flames suddenly erupted from Suzaku's body and swept in all directions. Replacement Hellfire Storm. On the air base, Yi Wuzi stared at Yian. He clearly saw that the dream runes in Yian's brain were connected to every part of his body. Yian at this moment is like a broken mirror, with a rune floating above the mirror. Countless threads shot out from the runes, connecting every fragment of the mirror, but it did not reunite the fragments. Because, as the Suzaku fire poured into Yian's body, new power filled the gaps between the fragments, making the mirror bigger, more radiant, and more beautiful. In the past 6 years, the upper limit of Yian's losses was quickly raised at this moment. The flame that commemorates his courage is the highest fire in the human world, a hellfire. This means, when Yian stands up again, his hard power may have a chance to be the best in the contemporary era, but it will definitely exceed the average. 3 professions, 3 great realms, the gap between the extraordinary level evolutionary fluid and the infinite level evolutionary fluid has not only been erased, but has even been surpassed. About 10 minutes later, the color returned to Yian's face, his fragmented body recovered, and his condition returned to its peak. After taking a long breath, he opened his eyes, sat up, looked around and said with a smile, why are so many people here suddenly? Then, he raised his hand and wiped Ji Qing's cheek, wondering, why don't you believe me? Ji Qing bit her lip tightly, feeling aggrieved and wanted to explain, but she didn't know what to say. Finally, Yian stood up and stretched, put his hands on his hips, looked up at the sky and smiled. He said nothing. But the god of hellfire thought it was a bit cool. The moment he chose to live towards death, he looked up and smiled. At this moment when he stood up after experiencing despair and death, he smiled again. There was no soul-stirring roar. There is only a disdainful mockery of fate. The destiny customized by heaven for me cannot suppress my dreams. Suddenly, Jishur stepped forward and said calmly, it's our first time meeting you. The smile on his face disappeared and he became serious, like a stern father. He stretched out his hand and said, Yian, it's our first time meeting you. You gave me a big surprise. Yian also stretched out his hand to shake hands with the Generalissimo. He was not short, but the Grand Marshal was too tall, like a giant, so Yian had to raise his head to see the other person's face clearly. After seeing it clearly, Yian smiled and said, you look just like the one on TV. Well. The Generalissimo didn't know what to say for a moment. He never thought that Yian would be so natural. Children used to be very afraid when they saw themselves. He's quite nice, a little familiar for some reason. Suddenly, Yian smiled again and said, Ji Qing doesn't trust me so much. She cries and feels cold at every turn. If she doesn't survive in the end, you can't rely on me. Ji Qing's eyes widened when she heard this. The Generalissimo's face became even stiffer. Suddenly Yian smiled again and said, of course, I will do my best to help her. Upon hearing this, the Grand Marshal suddenly asked, why are you willing to do your best to help my daughter? Yian smiled and said, this world is ridiculous. The damned will not die. Those who don't deserve to die must die. The ruthless man sitting in a tall building plays with power and enjoys the ultimate happiness. People on the ground have to work very hard to live an ordinary life, and even if they are not careful, they will be killed by people on high buildings. It annoys me every time I see something like this happen. I want to change this world. After the words fell, Yin turned to look at the airbase, and his eyes met Yi Wuzi's. Yin smiled and said, "You have been caring about me since I was 14, right? Dear uncle, I tell you sincerely. I know how much you've done for me. I'm very grateful." After saying that, he patted his chest and said, "Without you, I might not have been able to find a way to rise from the ashes. Although this method has some deviations due to your addition, it doesn't matter. My talents are the same as your father's, so I'm not afraid of these things. And, I also want to tell you a very cruel thing. Stop playing with power. You really don't have any talent as a combat strategist. Compared to your father, he is too stupid and childish." Suddenly, Yin paused and said, "You. Lifetime. It's impossible. Prove it. You are worthy of being Yi Tianwen's son. You are not worthy to be Yi Tianwen's son. You are a shame to the Yi family. You are a clown in my eyes. Thank you. Walk slowly." Yin was smiling, grinning at the corners of his mouth, but there was no smile in his eyes. He was staring straight at Yi Wuzi, not looking like a big boy next door at all. More like a madman, a ruthless person. Episode 45. Ancestor worship, old man, heavy rain, thunder, old friend, sky. Yi Wuzi also stared at Yin. The eyes of the two people are quite similar. But in the end he said nothing and left the possession. Yi Fuzhong. Yi Xiaoshu sat on the sofa and trembled. Because his father's face was very ugly, like a pervert who was about to go crazy. He tilted his neck and stared out the window with bloodshot eyes. It turns out that Yin knows everything. He already knew that this was a trap set by himself. But as he said, if he hadn't planned this situation, he wouldn't even know that he could be reborn on Mars. That's right, that extremely detailed piece of information came from Yi Wuzi's hands. The information was given by him. The information he asked the military department for was approved by him. And all this is false. Yin is lying to himself, pretending not to know. Why? Just to kill my heart at this moment? The most heart-wrenching thing is not this point, but the other 2 points in this informative speech. First, he proved that his talent as a strategic planner is much higher than his own. 2. He saw through his own innermost thoughts. He knows that the shadow in his life is his father. He knows his weaknesses. This also proves that his talent as a strategic planner is much higher than his own. But Yi Wuzi still didn't understand. Why is he declaring war on himself now? Yi Wuzi took a deep breath, and after swallowing the breath in his heart, his eyes returned to their normal coldness. One cannot be in a hurry. If you are in a hurry, you will make a mistake. The days are long, and I have plenty of ways to deal with this kid. Sudden. Yi Wuzi turned to look at Yi Xiaoshu and said with a smile, "Your brother is very good. He has been reborn from the ashes. It's not dead, and all the shortcomings caused by the evolutionary fluid have been made up for, and they were made up with Suzaku's fire." Hearing this, Yi Xiaoshu raised his head and his eyes suddenly flashed with light. Yi Wuzi said with a half-smile, "Are you happy for your brother? What a good brother. Come. Come on, come on." Yi Wuzi walked out as he spoke. Yi Xiaoshu hurriedly knelt on the ground and said, "No, no, no. Father, no. I'm not happy. Really do not have." "Really?" Yi Wuzi chuckled and said, "Why are you so excited? Why do you act like your father will harm you?" He smiled and walked towards Yi Xiaoshu. Yi Xiaoshu's pupils gradually became dilated. On Mars. The Generalissimo looked at Yin, his eyes changed slightly, and said, "So, you knew from the beginning to the end that Yi Wuzi did all this?" Yin shook his head and said, "Actually, I just feel that someone is interfering in my life, but I don't know who it is. It wasn't until later, when my grandfather told me before he died that I was a descendant of Yi Tianwen, and that the Yi family of Gaotian territory wanted to kill me, that I realized that the enemy was Yi Wuzi." The Grand Marshal frowned and said, "It's not conducive to your growth for you to declare war with Yi Wuzi so arrogantly." Yin said calmly, "I didn't want to say anything originally. But Ji Qing told me that he destroyed my grandfather's foundation. Otherwise, my grandfather wouldn't have died. Grandpa and I have a very good relationship. He killed my father, I must take his head to worship my ancestors. Otherwise, it would not be enough to honor the souls of my relatives in heaven. The Grand Marshal patted him on the shoulder and said, "But you may not be able to fight him. Although he can no longer deal with you openly, he can secretly." Yin interrupted the Generalissimo and said quietly, "I know. But there is such a saying in the field of combat strategists. Those who fight to the death and refuse to retreat will surely win against an army that fears death. I have long since lost my care in this world." Yin smiled freely. Ji Qing on the side suddenly grabbed the corner of his clothes and looked up at him with extremely complicated eyes. Yin silenced her head and said, "Don't worry, I will find a way to let you live." The Grand Marshal suddenly said, "Yin, let me explain to you about Yi Wuzi's situation. Almost all the high-level officials in Gaotian domain know what kind of virtue he is. He's not hypocritical either. But he has reached the divine realm, and his battle performance in the first theater is as high as 928%. He is also very business savvy, and all major races are willing to trade with him. Well, he is considered my adopted son. From childhood to adulthood, I never thought there was anything wrong with him. I never thought that he has already taken root in the land of Gaotian territory. Until the moment I discovered his true identity, he had become a cancer that was difficult to eradicate. What I want to tell you is that Yi Wuzi has many enemies, but at the same time, he also has a very large base of allies. You have to deal with him, not against a person. I am a rough man who only knows how to lead troops in war, so." Yin shook his head and said, "In this case, you tell all his allies that I am also a descendant of Yi Tianwen. You keep his allies from directly intervening. Give me an environment where he can fight alone." Ji Shi nodded heavily and said, "I can do this. Thank you." Yin saluted respectfully. Ji Shi shook his head and said, "No, I am the one who should say thank you." Suddenly, Yin asked, "Why did you wait until you were 18 years old to send her to me? Did you get instructions from someone?" Yin finally figured it out. The Generalissimo was the kind of killer on the battlefield and a loser in officialdom. Join forces with Yi Tianwen and become invincible. Without Yi Tianwen, he seemed a little embarrassed at the rear, not understanding anything about those intricate things. Under normal circumstances, such a person should send Ji Qing over when he detects his dream at the age of 12. But she waited until she was 18 years old, when Ji Qing only had 2 years left to live. Moreover, Ji Qing also said that there was a strong man who extended his life for 10 years. Yin was curious about this. Ji Shi shook his head and said, "Don't ask about these things. When you stand high enough, you will naturally be able to see the scenery over there." Yin could only nod and said, "Okay." In the end, Yin looked at the time and saw that he could mine some more minerals and enhance his realm, so he did not go directly to the Super League city and stayed on this planet. At the same time, another corner of the human world. This place is desolate and barren, and an old man is kneeling at the front of the crowd, praying for heavy rain for the suffering children. A few minutes later, heavy rain fell. The old man erected a sculpture and asked everyone to worship the sculpture. As long as you are sincere, miracles will happen. When people look at this sculpture, they just feel weird. How could there be such a strange great man? Wearing sunglasses, slippers, floral shirt, and beach shorts, standing with hands behind his hands, looking at the sky. However, what is conspicuous is that there are 3 heavy scars on the cheek of the sculpture, which were deliberately added by the old man who erected the sculpture. It seems that this great man originally had scars on his face. The old man who asked for heavy rain was also strange. He has blue hair and black-rimmed eyes. Although his face is wrinkled, his smile is very gentle and his voice is nice, not hoarse at all, and he looks a bit like a magic stick. The most teasing thing is that there is always a beautiful girl beside the old man. The two of them always look at each other with love in their eyes, as if they are really in love. It's just that this old man is really old. He coughed frequently, and his body was so thin that it looked like he might be blown over by a gust of wind at any time. At this moment, he and his wife were standing on the desolate land under heavy rain. Suddenly, he looked at the sky with a bitter smile on his face. 3,000 years have passed, and the gears of fate have finally begun to reverse. Episode 46. Can you help me kill him directly? On Mars. Yin did not accept the gift from the true god of Hellfire. He did not need the flame, but he made another request, hoping that the true god of Hellfire could help him once in the future. The Hellfire God readily agreed. Then Yin asked again, "Can you just help me kill Yi Wuz?" "Okay." Hellfire True God did not hesitate. He is not involved in the affairs of Giao Tianyu at all. To him, everyone is the same. But he was immediately stopped by Jing Nian and Lu Xiuyuan. Yi Wuzi cannot die. Now that he is dead, the second largest chamber of commerce in the human world will be leaderless, and the human race will lose a huge source of wealth. This is one of them. Secondly, Yi Wuzi is not weak. Once they get into a fight, everything will be shattered. Moreover, he is a snake-scorpion person who has many backups. He might have installed explosives on several planets. Once he dies, all life will be devastated. Thirdly, in the eyes of the world, Yi Wuzi is Yi Tianwen's legitimate son, and he bears supreme honor. Once he dies, people's hearts will be in chaos. Although Yi Wuzi has countless ways to die, but, alas, no one can touch him. Suddenly, Yian asked curiously, "What about Mr. King? He doesn't care?" 3,000 years ago, not long after the Battle of the Enthronement, the human king went into seclusion to practice. It is said that he has been trying to break through to a higher realm. However, there are also rumors that the 7th-generation human king was seriously injured and was dying. In short, in the Gaotian domain now, the human king has nothing to do and has never appeared. The ones who really control the steering wheel of the human race are the Grand Marshal, the Lord of Gaotian, and the gods and humans in the Hall of Heroes. As for why they didn't deal with Yi Wuzi, we don't know that. Yian had no choice but to say, "This guy is really hard to kill." These words made both Lu Xiuyuan and Jing Nian feel numb. Is Yian a little crazy? He opened his mouth to kill a god-level powerful man, and he said it so naturally that it made people feel at a loss. Finally, it's over and it's time for everyone to go home and eat. Yian continued mining and collected a lot of concentrated black fire ore in the next 8 days, exchanging resources and practicing at the same time. By the end of the 8th day, the progress of Yi An's 3 realms had reached 15%. Moreover, he also spent a lot of money to replace a source of advanced talisman of the Heart of Career Change, and advanced the concentration of Fist Intention to level 2. Before, when he activated his talent, his punch power with zero charge was 2.1 times, but now it has reached 2.3 times. In addition, his acquired deficiencies have been made up for, and his basic physical abilities have increased by nearly 10%, and his strength is also the same. So, Yian did the math. If I were to deal with Shidwa's demon god general again now, I should only need to accumulate power for 1.5 seconds before my power could exceed the demon god general's defense threshold and seriously injure the opponent. Plus the speed has also been improved. Yian simulated it in his dream. What if we do it again? In 30 seconds at most, Shidwa will definitely be solved. This time, he is more confident to win the high school league championship. At last, Yian and Ji Qing are going to take a spaceship to Suzaku Star. That is the main star of the Suzaku domain, but Suzaku himself does not live there, but on a relatively remote and quiet planet. No matter they are mythical beasts or strong men, they don't like excitement. They have already passed that age and understand that being ordinary is the real thing. Yian bought a ticket and got on the boat. There were few people on the boat, but he saw Huang Mao, who he had met before, at a glance. The other party will go back on the same day as him. Intuition told Yian that he seemed to be participating in the Super High School League. The two of them, one sitting in front and the other sitting in the back, looked at each other but did not communicate. Yian touched Ji Qing's forehead. It was still 35.5 degrees. It's good. I went to sleep and practiced in the Dreamland. Entering the Dreamland, Yian carefully began to examine the skill runes floating outside his talent runes. After not practicing the Divine Comedy for dozens of days, the light of the first style of Fengqi's runes dimmed a bit. Yian quickly exercised in his dream, creating enemies and feeling the strong wind. Efficient. Practicing skills in the Dreamland, as long as you practice them correctly, will be fed back into the real world, and the originally dim skill runes will have some glimmer of light. Before arriving at the station, Yian had already opened his eyes. Only then did he realize that Ji Qing was already asleep, leaning on his shoulder. He didn't dare to move at all for fear of waking up Ji Qing. Yian looked down at the star platform in his hand and was sending a message to Lin Zhou. How's it going? Have you ever lost? At this moment, Lin Zhou was at the celebration banquet, excitedly communicating with his classmates about the process of today's battle. Yi Yan's news came. He was startled, his hands shook, and he quickly said, "No. I should definitely be in the top 5,000. If you win the next game, you will be 5,000 strong. Your opponent has already appeared. His talent is SS-level axe-breaking power." Yi Yan nodded silently. The power of the broken axe can enhance instantaneous explosive power. It is a very practical combat talent. It is very popular with the army and is of the same level as Lin Zhou's 5-element sword. Actually 50/50ths. But Lin Zhou said again that he had just been watching the video of the opponent's battles and already knew what he was doing and had a way to deal with it. But for some reason, Yi Yan couldn't rest assured. He always felt that something unexpected would happen. In the end, he replied with "That's it for now" and stopped replying. Instead, he started researching ways to make money. Now, his bank card number has bottomed out, but he is not panicking. It's summer vacation now, the 2 busiest months in the human world. Every year, the battle for resources covering the entire human world begins during these 2 months, and various competitions are held everywhere. Businessmen make profits. Geniuses earn resources and fame. Spectators are entertained and emotionally satisfied. There is also a special website for geniuses like Yi Yan, which contains a summary of various competitions and registration links. Geniuses who want to increase their fame and wealth this summer can easily find an event that suits them. While Yi Yan was studying these things, suddenly, Lin Zhou sent a message again. "Damn it, brotherin. The opponent has withdrawn from the competition. If we replace him with another genius, he will still be at SS level." Yi Yan frowned, did not reply, and fell into deep thought. Another 5 minutes passed. That guy quits again. My opponent has changed again. Why does it feel weird? Yi Yan's face darkened. Ji Qing on the side opened her sleepy eyes, and she felt Yi Yan's sudden coldness. "What's wrong?" Ji Qing's pale little mouth moved slightly. Yi Yan said calmly, "Yi Wuzi has exerted his strength." Huh? Ji Qing was confused. In the high heaven domain. Yi Wuzi suddenly called the housekeeper and said, "I'm in a good mood today and want to start a training camp. Come on, I'll give you a list and you can invite the children I like. They may not want to come, that's okay, just remember to be polite and just spend money. The first one is the one with the power of breaking an axe." The housekeeper nodded quickly and said, "What about the second one?" "Don't be anxious, why are you anxious?" Yi Wuzi chuckled and said, "Everything must be done one by one." Episode 47. Someone is starting to exert force. On Suzaku Star. The thousands of participating geniuses were a little confused at this moment. They saw the latest news from the Super League. Suddenly someone from our division dropped out. And there's more than one. Are you crazy? Retiring from the competition will be severely punished. If one person withdraws from the competition, the entire schedule will undergo huge changes. Fortunately, now that we have advanced technology, AI will automatically rearrange the schedule. Why did someone withdraw from the competition again? It's really strange. There are already 5 people, right? One will retreat in 5 minutes, one after another. Wait, have you noticed? These people who have withdrawn from the competition have one thing in common. Their opponent is Lin Zhou. I have watched 2 of his matches, SS level, 5 elements sword, mid to upper level, I guess. His opponents are almost at the same level, so you shouldn't be afraid of him, right? This night, everyone was very confused. The most confused person was Lin Zhou. His opponents kept changing. For an entire hour, more than 20 people changed. Damn it. Suddenly, Lin Zhou cursed in an incomprehensible manner, his eyes widening. He won the prize. The new opponent is an SSS plus level genius named Zixiao, whose talent is incredible, and he is the dragon soul of Zidian. He is nearly invincible in the early stage and can even fight at infinite levels. This guy is the 2nd seed in the Suzaku division. Why did you get yourself in the queue? Change it. Why don't you quit? 5 minutes passed. 10 minutes passed. Half an hour passed. Opponents no longer withdraw from the game. His enemy is Zixiao, the Purple Palace Dragon Soul, the master of speed and strength, the blessinger of the Thunder Dragon, a monster who can sit on the card table of the High Heaven realm and compete with other infinite levels. How come you got hit by yourself? Lin Zhouru was struck by lightning and said, "Brethren, something big has happened." "Are you ranked against an SSS level opponent?" Yian asked. "No, it's SSS plus, Purple Palace Dragon Soul." "Don't panic." Yian looked up at the time on the spacecraft and said, "I'll be there in 5 hours." "What time did you play?" Lin Zhou quickly said, "It will be 10 o'clock tomorrow morning." "It's 8 o'clock at night, 14 hours to go." "That should be in time." Yian frowned. "That's good." Lin Zhou breathed a sigh of relief. He definitely can't defeat the Purple Palace Dragon Soul. It seems that the dream of being the top 5,000 people in the human world is going to be shattered. He was actually a little unwilling. Why does this happen suddenly? His opponents changed more than 20 times in a row. It seems like someone did it deliberately. Finally, he told his friends and family the news. Everyone comforted him. But he shook his head and said, "I am actually very happy to be able to fight until now. It's better than not being able to play at all." After saying that, he smiled, raised his coke and toasted to everyone. At the same time, on Yian's spaceship, Ji Qing was suddenly curious and said, "Why did Yi Wuzi do this? I just can't let Lin Zhou continue to fight, and I can't stop you either." The words just fell. Sudden. The spacecraft jolted. Yian laughed at himself and said, "Isn't this a stop?" After a few minutes, the spacecraft shut down and floated in the middle of the starry sky. The captain's voice came to everyone's ears. "I just received news that our spaceship cannot continue sailing. It says there is something wrong with the portal in front and it needs time to repair. It should be fine soon. Let's take a rest." Yian crossed his arms and leaned on the bench. Ji Qing hummed softly, took out the star platform and quickly contacted her father. But the next second, subpoena failed. Ji Qing frowned and sent several messages in succession. All sending failed and phone calls cannot be made. Damn it. In today's era of extremely advanced technology, how can the communication network fail? Yian glanced at Ji Qing's star platform, lowered his head and pondered, and murmured, "It's the captain." He cut off the signal source of the spacecraft's communication with the outside world. If only the front portal was malfunctioning, the captain should not have reacted like this. Only if there is a problem inside the spacecraft itself, he will cut off the signal source and prevent us from communicating with the outside world. Let me just say, destroying a portal just to stop me from arriving is ridiculous. After all, a portal has to pick up and deliver so many spaceships every day, shouldering a heavy task. If Yi Wuzi does such a thing, although it will appear that he has great power and covers the sky with one hand, it will also appear that he is stupid. Because there are many ways to hold us back. For example, he's here. Yian looked out the window and saw an army warship parked next to it. Ji Qing was confused and said, "What is that?" Yian chuckled and said, "We are demon spies." "What?" Ji Qing frowned. "It should be about the same." Yian explained, "It's not that the portal in front is malfunctioning, but that Yi Wuzi told the people below that there are demon spies on this spaceship. And that's us. He would have his men take us away and put us in some detention center for 12 hours. In this way, we will never be able to catch up. Lin Zhou must fight, there is a 90% chance that he will lose. If I lose, I will also be eliminated." After saying this, Ji Qing's face changed slightly. "What?" At this time, a steady sound of footsteps came from the cabin door. A group of people in military uniforms appeared, holding high-level electromagnetic guns and shouting, "Everyone, stand up and put your hands up." Ji Qing wanted to get up and reveal her identity. Yian shook his head and said, "They don't know you. What should we do?" Ji Qing frowned slightly. "Let's take it one step at a time." Yian remained calm. He and Ji Qing stood up and raised their hands. Ji Qing looked at Yian's side face, expressionless and very steady, as if he had everything under control. At this time, a soldier looked down at the photo in his hand, looked up at Yian, and shouted, "That's him. Knock out." As soon as the words fell, one person was about to press the trigger. Electromagnetic guns will not harm lives. Yian's eyes were sharp. Now that I'm dizzy, I'll have no choice but to do anything. Do you want to be tough? After Yian was silent for a few seconds, he chose to give up. Maybe there is a strong man standing next to the door, waiting for you to resist. At this time, Ji Qing's face sank. She didn't believe that the other party dared to do something to her. Ji Qing took one step forward. But it happened unexpectedly. There was a man who raised his hand before them. Huang Mao, who was sitting in front, raised his military ID card and said calmly, "There are no demon spies in this carriage. I guarantee this in the name of the Jin family." As soon as these words came out, Yian raised his head sharply. Ji Qing was also startled. Several soldiers looked at their military certificates, their expressions changed slightly, and they said, "Holy Gold Shepherd?" Episode 48. Is he worthy? What do you think? Several soldiers stayed where they were for a moment. Shengjin Muquang, the fifth person in the contemporary war, has reached 169% at this age, second only to those monsters in the world. No, he himself is a monster on Earth. This is going to be difficult. As mentioned above, there is a high probability that that person is a demon spy. Must take it away. Suddenly, a sound of footsteps came from the side of the cabin door, and a man with a sinister smile walked out. He put his hands behind his back and said, "Mr. Muquang, please leave first. There are indeed demon spies here." Muquang looked directly at the other party and said coldly, "I have killed demons for many years. Isn't it clear to me whether there are demons here? This ship departs from Helmars. It's a bit ridiculous that people on Helmars can't tell who is a demon spy." The man chuckled and said, "Mr. Shepherd, we are just following the rules." After being silent for a few seconds, Muquang said, "I will contact my master. Report the truth to him. Please." The man's smile remained unchanged. The man's tough attitude and the arrest warrant he produced left Muquang helpless. He lowered his head and snorted coldly, and walked to the man's side. Yian clearly saw that the other party glanced at him from the corner of his eye. Holy gold pastoral madness. I remember. The rest of the people are leaving immediately. Everyone, take action. Catch the demon spies. Ji Qing's face sank, and she was about to announce her identity. But Yian suddenly held her hand and whispered a few words in her ear. After hearing this, Ji Qing's face changed slightly and she looked into Yian's eyes. In the end, she did not stop the other party from arresting the person, and walked out of the spacecraft with her head lowered. Someone tried to stop her, but the sinister man stopped her. Soon, Ji Qing came to another small hatch of the spacecraft. The madman was sitting here with a gloomy expression, talking to a certain mysterious big shot. A hearty laughter came from his ears, and he said, "Xiao Kuang, why are you willing to help him?" This surprised me. "Stop talking nonsense, can you help?" Muquang asked in a deep voice. "Sorry, I can't help." Jin Buwan, the head of the Jin family, said calmly, "Do you know who the person you want to help is?" "I heard it, Yian." Muquang responded coldly. "Then do you know who his enemy is? Who in the human world has so much energy and can do such a thing? Let me tell you directly, Yi Wuzi. I, Jin Buwan, am a businessman. Offending Yi Wuzi will not do me any good." Suddenly, Muquang's phone was snatched away by Ji Qing. He was startled and looked up. "What are you doing?" Ji Qing ignored the other party and said calmly, "Head of the Jin family, I am Ji Qing, the daughter of the Grand Marshal." "Huh?" Jin Buwan said quickly and respectfully, "Your Highness, wish you Jinan." "You are a businessman, right?" Ji Qing replied. "Right. As long as you have enough benefits, you can do anything, right? You can say that. Hellfire, do you want it?" "Huh?" Jin Buwan's face changed slightly. "You mean the hellfire on the true god of hellfire?" "That's right." "Your Highness, are you serious? Do you think I would joke with you?" Ji Qing responded coldly. "Of course Your Highness won't, but in the name of my father, I promise you that as long as you have a way to track down Yi Wuzi, the man behind Yi An's arrest, and have Yi Wuzi confront Yi An in court as a criminal suspect, then this hellfire is yours." "Your Highness, you are joking. It is too difficult for Yi Wuzi to sit in the position of a criminal suspect." "What's the difficulty?" You have my father behind you, what are you afraid of? He is Yi Tianwen's son. Yian is also a direct descendant of Yi Tianwen, and has the same talent as Yi Tianwen. And Ji Qing said, recalling what Yian just said to her in her mind. You dare not offend Yi Tianwen, how dare you offend my father? As soon as these words came out, Jin Buwan fell silent on the spot. He stood on a private oasis surrounded by green water and mountains, his face solemn. Sure enough, this day has come. Now there are two lines of human race competing against each other. The human king is not here. The Gaotian territory lord and the marshal's mansion are now the two tallest mountains in the human world. They have fought countless times over the past few thousand years, both covertly and overtly. Behind Yi Wuzi is the domain lord Gaotian. The generalissimo is not good at maneuvering, so he always suffers. But precisely because the generalissimo never asks us to take sides, the human world is still peaceful. It is also a kind of wisdom for the generalissimo to respond to the competition without arguing. In this way, we can always remain neutral. If the Gaotian territory lord wants to win over us, he does not dare to be too presumptuous. After all, if he is pressed, he can turn around and join the marshal's mansion. It doesn't matter no matter how bad the generalissimo is. Because he has soldiers. Soldiers of the entire human world. In addition, the Grand Marshal himself has high moral character and unrivaled military exploits, and his appeal is much higher than that of the Gaotian territory lord who has not been born for many years. Therefore, even if he is a reckless man who is only good at leading troops in war, he will remain as immovable as Mount Tai even if the lord of Gaotian territory invades him. Now, Yi Wuzi was anxious when he saw the born Yian. The generalissimo also has a special emotion for the gift of dreams. Now, Yian is clearly in line with the generalissimo. The Gaotian territory lord's lineage will definitely take action against Yian. Because it's not just the Yi family that Yian can shake. If another Yi Tianwen appears in the human world, he will join forces with Jishe. Then this human world is still a world of dreams and peerlessness. Even if he, the lord of the high heaven territory, remains silent and developed for 10,000 years, he will not be able to make a comeback. Now. The generalissimo found me. It's my turn, Jin Buwan, to take sides. Although he had thought about this scene countless times in his mind. But when that day did come, it was still difficult for him to handle. He is standing at the crossroads of destiny. You have to choose one. The result of making the wrong choice is, at best, ruined reputation and being replaced, and at worst, possible death. But choose the right one. Then the foundation of my Jin family will reach a higher level and become the eternal money family in the human world. Suddenly, Jin Buwan smiled and said, Did the generalissimo ask you to make this call? Ji Qing responded in a deep voice, No. You answered so quickly, I understand. Jin Buwan raised his head and sighed, Yian asked you to tell me all this, right? Perhaps the generalissimo doesn't even know what's happening now, right? But Yian still dares to take advantage of the generalissimo's strength to gain momentum. What's your confidence? Did he even tell you to answer this question? I told you. Ji Qing responded seriously, confidence is your dream. Jin Buwan suddenly sneered. Is this little guy named Yian so brave? Is he forcing me to take sides? Jin Buwan's voice deepened. An 18-year-old, fledgling kid whose hair may not even be fully grown, do you think he is worthy? Ji Qing said calmly, Now, my life is connected with him. Do you think he's worthy? As soon as these words came out, the smile on Jin Buwan's face stopped abruptly. Episode 49. Because he is your father. Ji Qing's life is connected with Yi An's? What does it mean? Jin Buwan thought quickly. As we all know, His Highness is crippled and seriously ill. The last time I saw her, she didn't even have the strength to speak. She leaned against the marshal like a zombie. But his current tone of voice and his ability to think logically all indicate that His Highness has recovered greatly from his illness. Then His Highness said that her life was connected with Yian? What does it mean? Dreams can do anything. He is much older than Yi Wuzi. The reason why the Jin family became the richest businessman in the human world was because he invested in Yi Tianwen back then. He has seen how incredible the gift of dreams can be. If everything is normal, I will definitely spend a lot of money to invest in Yian. It's a pity that his enemy is the madman Yi Wuzi. The opponent is now powerful and has the support of Gaotian territory lord. The Jin family is unwilling to provoke each other. But now, Yan uses the gift of dreams to connect his life with Ji Qing. According to Ji Qing's words, if Yan dies, she will definitely die. That Generalissimo. No one knew how much the Generalissimo had paid for Ji Qing, and he wished he could tear his heart out. If you don't help Yan now, it's equivalent to not helping Ji Qing, and it's equivalent to being an enemy of the Generalissimo. So you have to make your own choice. Rejecting Ji Qing's request is tantamount to rejecting the lineage of the Grand Marshal and joining the lineage of the Gaotian territory lord. Do you want to hang out with that group of people? If you wanted to, you would have joined already. I can't help feeling sad, I just feel my heart and liver twitching. That anxious, painful but extremely exciting feeling came to him again after thousands of years. Is the life of walking on thin ice about to begin again? Jin Buwan let out a long sigh and said, Your Highness, are you serious about what you just said? He wanted to confirm again. Ji Qing said indifferently, You can ask my father. If necessary, I can contact my father now. Jin Buwan frowned and said, Forget it then. Something big happened with Li He and Zhang Demon Slayer. Your father is busy. He laughed at himself and said, That's right. It's precisely because your father can't get out of school that Yi Wuzi dares to use your father's resources to deal with you unscrupulously. This world is about to change. After sighing, Jin Buwan said indifferently, Your Highness. Remember the hellfire you promised me? Ji Qing, of course. She hung up the call, her little face finally couldn't hold back anymore, and she showed a bright smile. So exciting. Yan is so fierce. Just now, I could choose to confront the other party, or I could choose to call my father. But Yan said. The other party is well prepared and will not give us a chance to be tough. It is even possible that your father may not be able to take action. Yi Wuzi is stupid, but not stupid enough. If you want to win against him, you must follow that principle. Those who fight to the death and refuse to retreat will surely win against an army that fears death. He thought I cared about those few resources and the ranking in the high school league. But I can actually give up. It doesn't matter if they imprison me for a while, I will definitely make them pay the price. Mu Kuang mentioned the Jin family just now. I know that force is very large. It has a much longer history than the Yi family and has a deeper foundation. He can impress Yi Wuzi, and he is a businessman. As long as there are enough benefits, he will definitely be impressed. Ji Qing was thinking about this. The Xingjin Mu Kuang on the side frowned. He was able to figure out Yan's plan through the conversation between Ji Qing and Jin Buhuan. Is this guy so scary? At this time, Yan walked out, his hands were cuffed, and two people were holding his shoulders. The sinister-looking man walked in front with a smile on his face. Suddenly, Yan paused. What do you want to do? Walk faster, one person scolded. Yan ignored the other party, looked up at the sinister man, and said, I would like to ask, what is your name? The person escorting Yi and angrily shouted, What do you want to do? Threaten our leader. But the sinister man waved his hand and said with a smile, Master Yi, my surname is Zhou, and my name is Evil. Any advice? Yan also said with a smile, Zhou Yi. If you let me go now and kneel down and kowtow to apologize, then you will still live. I only give you 3 seconds to choose. 3, 2, 1. Time up. Zhou Yi's face froze, he twitched the corners of his mouth and said, Don't you understand the situation? Yan raised his head and laughed, saying, Don't say that I didn't give you a chance to live. TCH. Zhou Yi dismissed it. But he began to feel uneasy. At this time, Ji Qing stood up and asked coldly, Can I follow? Zhou Yi knew the other party's identity and said quickly, Of course. When we finish interrogating him, if he's okay, he can leave. This attitude is completely different from that towards Yangshi. Ji Qing hummed softly, Then let's go. Also, can you keep those 2 stinky hands away from my best friend? Ji Qing pointed to the 2 palms escorting Yin. Zhou Yi forced a smile and said, Of course. At last, Yin was taken to the planet closest to here. The ship to the Super League sets sail again. Mu Kuang sat back down, frowning. Dream. Descendants of Yi Tianwen. These two identities turned out to be a curse of fate for Yian. This era is so ridiculous. Yian was even more crazy and directly used hellfire to persuade the family leader to fight Yiwutsa. He thought he was already one of the most remarkable people among the younger generation. The head of the family told others that there are people outside, and there is a sky outside the sky. Now it seems that it is indeed the case. No matter how fierce he is, he can only compete with people of the same age and level. Where is Yian? Fighting against a mastermind like Yiwutsa in the human world. Not only is he not afraid, he also wants to fight back. How fierce! How cruel! But before on Helmars, when he gave me the concentrated ore, he was obviously very gentle. What a weirdo. At the same time. In the interrogation room. The interrogator sat in front of Yian. Where were you 3 years ago? Doing what? Yian leaned back on the chair, closed his eyes and rested, not bothering to respond at all. Speak. The interrogator slammed the table and said, Don't think that you can escape legal punishment if you don't say anything. If you are really a demon spy, there is still a way to survive if you confess. If you refuse to plead guilty, your fate will be capital punishment. Yian. He has already entered the dreamland and started practicing. I didn't bother to pay attention to the other party at all, and didn't want to say a word. The Inquisitor was very angry. He walked out and reported to Zhou Yi, saying, the other party refuses to say anything. He seems to be sleeping with his eyes closed. Can we use strong force? Zhou Yi shook his head and said, Strong measures? We are law-abiding citizens and we cannot act recklessly. After 24 hours, if he still doesn't say anything, report it to your superiors. Okay. The judge nodded heavily. Next to him, Ji Qing sat quietly. He doesn't talk, doesn't do anything, and doesn't play with the stars. He just stays in a daze, which looks very strange to outsiders. But she has long been used to it. What's more, Yian and her were separated by a wall, 3 meters apart. The two were back to back. Don't be afraid of anything. Episode 50. I want to win. Soon, the night passed. 7 o'clock in the morning. Yian's star suddenly flashed, and someone sent him a message. Ji Qing lowered her head and saw that it was Lin Zhou. Brethren, haven't you arrived yet? The game will start in 3 hours. Ji Qing frowned slightly, but did not reply first, but instead sent a message to Jin Buwan. Isn't the matter finished yet? Jin Buwan replied, Your Highness, it's almost done. In 3 hours at most, I can find the complete chain of evidence. 3 hours, is it enough time? Ji Qing couldn't help but ask. It's difficult. Jin Buwan replied matter-of-factly. It's okay, just look for it slowly. Ji Qing replied. I still want to buy some time for Yian, but since there is no other way, forget it. What's more, Yian is mentally prepared to give up the Super League. So Ji Qing replied to Lin Zhou. As for your sudden change of opponents, someone is deliberately targeting me. I'm stuck now and there's a high chance I'll miss the game. So it's up to you, whether you want to surrender or fight with the opponent, it's up to you. Anyway, I shouldn't be able to make it in time. Lin Zhou quickly replied, Is there a villain targeting you? Why? You are a super genius of the human race, no one cares about this kind of thing? Ji Qing was silent for a long time. She didn't want to reply, but suddenly she thought of another sentence. If it were Yian, he would definitely say something like this. You take care of yourself and don't worry about me. It's because of me that you can't enter the top 5,000. I will replenish the lost resources for you. On Suzaku Star. The immature Lin Zhou tightly held the star platform in his hand. Growing up, he always thought that those super geniuses had good fortunes. Regardless of his background, he will be favored by the big shots in Gaotian realm, and he can easily obtain resources and become stronger. Unlike us, we have to work very hard to make progress. They are the people favored by fate, and we are just green leaves. Until more than a month ago. When Lin Zhou learned that an infinite genius like Yian was so close to death, he suddenly realized the true meaning of that sentence. If you want to inherit the crown, you must bear its weight. They are indeed the sun, very dazzling, but at the same time they are watched by the boundless darkness. On the contrary, we, the green leaves, thrive in the sunshine and are not invaded by the darkness. At that time, Lin Zhou was in a very intense mood, and he admired Yi and more in his heart, and was determined to reach the top 5,000 no matter what. This is not only an honor for me and Tianshui High School. It's the agreement I made with him. I almost did it. Why would things turn out like this? Why is it always so close? Why do regrets always follow me? The sun rises at 7 o'clock and shines on the earth. Lin Zhou sat on a chair in the breakfast bar and looked up at the sky, looking extremely aggrieved, as if he was about to drop his little pearl in the next second. Passers-by around him were confused. The classmates around him lowered their heads. Suddenly, Lin Zhou's girlfriend whispered, "Everything is an arrangement of fate, and it is also the best arrangement." Well. Lin Zhou didn't listen at all, didn't look back, and made a perfunctory sound. It took him a few seconds to react and remember what his girlfriend said. Is everything an arrangement of fate? Arrange for me to never achieve my goals? Arrangement I can't fulfill my promise. Lin Zhou lowered his head and laughed at himself, saying, "Fuck your fate. Let's go in." My girlfriend and classmates around me were all shocked and said, "You want to fight?" These words were like a spark, instantly igniting the anger in Lin Zhou's heart. He turned his head sharply and roared angrily, "I want to win." The majestic sound echoed in the early morning streets. The birds on the green branches were frightened away. Passers-by on the street were startled. The students were full of panic. They had never seen such a manic Lin Zhou. But how to win? The opponent is Xidian Dragon Soul, a genius favored by the dragon god of the demon world. What about us? They are just students in a border town filled with yellow sand and ordinary people looking up at the stars. But Lin Zhou left after yelling, facing the field, munching breakfast as he walked. His steps were firm and tough, as if he had made some kind of determination, which actually made people feel like he could really win. Outside the interrogation room. 2 hours passed in the blink of an eye. The time came to 9:30 in the morning. Ji Qing, who was closing her eyes to rest her mind, suddenly received the message. She quickly opened the star platform and took a look. "Your Highness, all the evidence chains are complete. I have sent these to the Supreme Court of Gaotian Territory. If nothing else happens, Zhou Yi will let you go immediately. And I have sent my little assistant to greet you and Yan. I asked him to go directly to Suzaku's star from the Black Member channel. Under normal circumstances, he will definitely be able to make it in time. You just need to wait for my assistant to arrive." Ji Qing immediately became energetic and a smile appeared on her face. At the same time, Zhou Yi, who had been watching all night, also received bad news. He looked at the news in the star platform with an extremely ugly face. The other side of the news. Yi Fuzhong. Yi Wuzi picked up a message from Xingtai and called Jin Buwan. After Jin Buwan got through, he said with a smile, "Master Yi. What's the sudden call?" Yi Wuzi lowered his head, holding a summons from the Heavenly Punishment Court in his hand. He looked at the summons and said with a smile, "Old Jin. We could have cooperated, do you understand?" Understood. Jin Buwan was too lazy to pretend to be a big-tailed wolf. "I just want to know one thing, why did you choose him?" Yi Wuzi asked indifferently. Jin Buwan smiled and said, "He is your father. How can you possibly fight against your father?" This sentence has no practical meaning, it is just insulting. Yi Wuzi's eyes were gloomy, and he didn't bother to talk nonsense. He hung up the communication directly, squeezed the star platform, and veins popped out on his forehead. "You all have to fight me." "Good. Yes." Then, he looked up at the clock and immediately called Zhou Yi. "Zhou Evil. Listen clearly. No matter what happens, don't let Yan go. No matter what method you use, you must delay Yan for 20 minutes. I guarantee you will enter the 8th realm." Zhou Yi's face changed slightly when he heard this. Yi Wuzi's promise was very heroic. He also believed that Yi Wuzi could fulfill his promise. But now, the court leaflet has come down. Yan is already innocent. If you insist on keeping someone, this is a serious violation of the law. If someone finds out that it was illegal to arrest Yan, and it was maliciously preventing an infinite genius from participating. No death penalty. No life sentence. But he will be exiled to the frontier, and he will have to kill enough demons before he can come back. But this is no different from the death penalty, because 90% of people who are pampered in the rear and go to the front will not survive 3 battles. 99% will not survive 10 games. Moreover, life in that place and my current life are completely two extremes. Joe simply can't accept it. Just as he was hesitating, he suddenly received a call from his son. Just listen to the immature child's milky voice and ask, "Dad, when are you coming home?" Hearing this, Joe Evil's body trembled. It's over. If you don't do what Yewutsa said, my family is doomed. But if you do what he says, he insists on going his own way and insists on keeping people around. The result is, I am the main culprit. His eyes were through the glass, staring at Ian, who was closing his eyes to rest. The words Ian said to him last night echoed in his mind. When the time comes, don't blame me for not giving you a way to survive. Why does this happen? Who dares to issue a court summons to Yewutsa? He turned back sharply to look at Ji Qing. No. His father was protecting Zhang Demon and Li He in the Sky Arena and couldn't concentrate on handling this matter. Who could it be? Suddenly, Zhou Yi smiled miserably, thinking to himself, are these still important?